Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're all about getting straight to the heart of what you need to know.
Exactly. No messing around.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into how people really connect and make decisions, specifically in business and sales.
Yeah. And we're using Jeb Blount's book, People Buy You, as our main source here.
Right. So forget all the super complicated strategies for a minute. Our mission today is simple. Pull out those fundamental human truths, the stuff that really drives successful interactions.
Get you up to speed fast.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get lost, isn't it? All these new sales methods coming out constantly.
Away.
But what's great about this book, and what we'll unpack, is it gets back to the bedrock principles. You know, human connection.
There's timeless stuff.
That's what really matters for building strong business relationships.
Okay, so let's start where the author starts. What really grabbed me was his point about how complex sales training has become. It feels like this constant race for the newest, most intricate technique.
Yeah. And his perspective is key here. He's saying, amidst all that fancy advice, the basics, just how humans interact, were getting buried.
Right.
He saw all these newest and greatest schemes popping up, but they often completely missed the fundamental drivers. Rapport, trust, that kind of thing.
And he wasn't just guessing. He actually backs this up, right, with his own experience.
Absolutely. He points out that when his teams focused on these core human principles, even on really complex, high-stakes deals, their closing rates were, well, remarkably high.
So that makes you think, doesn't it? If the basics are that powerful, why are we always chasing complexity?
Good question. Maybe it's that hunt for a silver bullet. You know, the idea that some secret tactic will just magically unlock success.
Could be.
But the author's point is clear. Sustained success, long-term success, it comes from consistently applying these foundational things, not chasing trends.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the book dives into some really common beliefs, myths almost, about relationships in sales and business, things you hear all the time.
Yeah, let's tackle those.
The first one that really made me pause was, friends buy from friends.
Ah, yes, that's a classic, isn't it? He shares that story about Herb.
Herb, yeah, the top salesperson.
Right. And Herb basically said his success was just down to hard work and, well, selling to his friends. Sounds almost too simple.
It does, but then the author adds that crucial layer, that nuance.
Exactly. It's not just about being friends beforehand. It's about whether people genuinely like you and trust you.
So friendship might open the door.
But it's the liking and trusting that makes the sale stick, essentially. People buy from those they feel a real positive connection with, who they believe will deliver.
Right. So for our listeners, having friendly contacts is great. Sure, it helps.
It gets you in.
But the staying power of that relationship, it needs more than just knowing each other from somewhere else.
Unless, like the author jokes, you desperately need ice after a hurricane or something. Then, yeah, you'll buy from anyone.
Fair point.
Yeah.
But generally, it's that liking and trust that counts.
Spot on.
And that links nicely to the second myth he busts. All relationships are good relationships. This feels really relevant today, you know?
Yeah.
Everything's connected. But it can also feel kind of impersonal.
It really does. And what's insightful here is the author's focus on the emotional connection. That's key.
Emotional connection.
He tells this story, advice he got from a really successful sales pro. If you just cannot make an emotional connection with a prospect, it might be best to just disengage, walk away.
Wow. That sounds almost counterintuitive. We're always told to push through, right? Keep closing.
I know. But the logic is pretty stark. If there's a fundamental lack of liking, that basic human resonance just isn't there, it can be a complete barrier, an insurmountable one, potentially.
A deal breaker, even if your product is amazing on paper.
Precisely. And think about it. This isn't just about getting the first sale. It hits customer retention hard, too.
How so?
Well, the author argues customers come back because they genuinely like the people they deal with at a company. If that positive feeling fades, or if they actively dislike someone they have to interact with, they will start looking elsewhere, even if the service itself is okay.
Okay, that's a powerful point. Let's move to the third myth. You have to sell yourself. Oh man, this one is deep in business culture.
It really is. He even mentions hearing this top businessman telling MBA students at like a major university, you got to sell yourself.
And everyone just nods along, future leaders, right?
Exactly. It's become this cliche, as the author puts it. We hear it so much we don't even think about what it means anymore.
But then he flips it. He brings in Jeffrey Gitomer's idea.
Yeah, that classic line, people love to buy.
But they hate to be sold. I love that quote. It just shifts everything.
It really does. And the key thing for listeners to grasp here is the difference. When you try too hard to sell yourself, constantly boasting, feature dumping.
Pushing your own brilliance.
Right. It can actually push people away. It feels achy.
Mm.
People want to feel like they're making their own decision.
On their terms.
Yeah. So instead of always pushing our own agenda, the focus should shift.
To making the other person feel important. Understood.
Exactly. And that leads us perfectly into the core of the book.
Yeah.
The 5 levers. The people buy you levers.
Okay, let's get into these. 5 key behaviors we can actually control, right? Things that really shape how people see us.
That's it. These are actionable things.
First one, be likable. And right off the bat, he makes this crucial point. Likability isn't just something you have or don't have.
No, it's a choice, an active thing. That's so powerful for listeners, I think. You choose to be likable.
How? What are the behaviors?
Well, he lists several fundamental ones. Smiling, having good manners, being present, really their enthusiasm, confidence, and being authentic.
Okay, let's dig into smiling for a second. Seems basic, right? But he spends time on it.
He does. He observes how many people just walk around looking serious, almost unapproachable.
Why is that, do you think, according to the book?
Well, often it's not that they're actually unhappy or grumpy. It's just they're lost in their own heads.
Right, their own thoughts, worries.
Exactly, that internal monologue. And when you're stuck in there, you can accidentally project this, well, unlikable vibe.
So the advice is be conscious of it. Make the effort.
Yeah. Consciously put on a smile, especially when you meet someone or even just answering the phone. Be mindful of how you're coming across. Pause that internal chatter for a second.
He even gives tips, right? Like, think of something happy. Practice.
Mm-hmm. Think of something pleasant. Makes the smile genuine. Practice in a mirror if you need to. And think about the effect. You smile at someone, they usually smile back. It just sets a better tone immediately.
Especially that real smile, the one that reaches your eyes, the Duchenne smile.
That signals authenticity.
Yeah.
Huge for building trust quickly, especially first meetings.
Okay, next part of likability. Be there. This feels so relevant now with all the distractions.
Oh, absolutely. Phones buzzing, notifications popping up. It's so easy to be physically in the room, but mentally miles away.
He quotes Jim Rohn, right? Wherever you are, be there.
Such a simple but profound idea. And it's crucial for likability. If you're not fully engaged, if you're glancing at your watch or phone, letting your mind wander,
It sends a message.
a clear one.
Mm-hmm.
You're not important to me right now.
Yeah.
And that just kills any chance of a positive connection.
That feeling of not being truly heard, it really damages trust, doesn't it?
Definitely. So the guidance is clear. Turn off the distractions. Put the phone away. Focus. Give your complete attention.
Okay. Enthusiasm and confidence are next. He links them together.
Yeah, he sees them as outward signs of what's going on inside, your beliefs, your attitude.
And enthusiasm is contagious.
Totally. And confidence. That gives the other person a sense of security, like you know what you're doing.
But what if your job or what you sell isn't inherently exciting, like, say, conveyor belts?
All right. He uses that exact example. Knox the conveyor belt salesman. Yeah. The key for the listener is find what can spark enthusiasm. For Knox, it wasn't the belts themselves. It was understanding the client's problems, figuring out the solution, helping them. That's where the excitement came from.
So shift the focus. Find the engaging part, like solving a customer's big problem.
Exactly. Find your angle.
And if you're really struggling to feel it, just can't get enthusiastic.
Then the advice is kind of like, fake it till you make it. Act enthusiastic. Put on the energy. Sometimes the feeling actually follows the action.
Dale Carnegie's idea. Act enthusiastic to become enthusiastic.
Spot on. Now, confidence. He defines it simply as believing in yourself, believing you can succeed.
And he talks about self-talk, that internal voice.
Huge impact. He stresses how critical it is to shut down that negative self-talk, the stuff that just eats away at your confidence.
He also has an interesting take on fear. It's not about not being afraid.
Right. It's about using fear almost like lifting weights. Fear provides the resistance you need to build courage.
That's a great analogy.
It is, isn't it? So, the idea for listeners is take small steps. Confront those fears in manageable ways. And track your wins. Acknowledge when you overcome something. That builds real self-assurance over time.
Incrementally.
Exactly. Consistent growth.
And he also links this back to just taking care of yourself, right? Mind, body, spirit.
Yes. So important for sustaining both confidence and enthusiasm, especially with all the daily stress. He specifically calls out physical fitness.
How does that connect?
Well, being physically healthy doesn't just affect how you look, though. That can boost confidence, too. It seriously impacts your mental energy, your focus, your resilience, all vital in client-facing roles.
And people do notice, don't they? Maybe unconsciously.
The author thinks so. He says prospects and customers judge you partly on your physical presentation. Looking healthy and vital often reads as confident. Winners look and feel confident, is his point.
Okay. And he briefly mentions good manners and authenticity as well as part of being likable.
Right, they're also in the mix. And then he moves to the second lever, connect.
And he makes a distinction here, doesn't he? Between truly connecting and just building rapport.
Yeah, he suggests rapport building can sometimes feel a bit forced, maybe even manipulative if it's not genuine.
Whereas connecting is deep.
It's about genuinely tearing down walls, fostering real communication, real understanding.
And when you have that real connection, what happens?
People feel safer. They feel more comfortable sharing what's really going on, their actual problems and needs.
Which lets you provide real value.
Exactly. And build real loyalty. Strong connections, he says, are hard to break. They're the foundation of long-term business relationships.
So how do we initiate that? How do we start connecting?
He suggests starting easy. Ask simple, enjoyable questions. Get them talking, break the ice, lower those emotional walls.
And once they are talking,
undivided attention. Crucial. Listen intently. It reinforces that you value what they're saying. Makes them feel important.
show genuine interest.
Right. The more genuinely curious you are, the more important they feel, and the deeper the connection goes.
He even suggests doing some homework beforehand, researching the person.
Yeah, look for things like non-personal achievements, interests you can ask about. It shows you've made an effort, that you value them.
And listening. Obviously, key to connecting.
Absolute central. But not just hearing words. He uses that funny telephone game example from school.
Oh, yeah. Or the message gets totally mangled by the end.
Exactly. It shows how poorly we often listen. Real effective listening builds trust like almost nothing else.
Another thing he emphasizes for connection, using names.
Oh, huge. Our own name is like the sweetest sound, all right?
Yeah.
Using someone's name makes them feel seen, acknowledged, valued.
He kind of calls out people who say, I'm just bad with names.
He does. He basically says it's often just a lack of effort, not a lack of ability.
What are his tips for remembering names?
3 things. Commit to remembering it. Concentrate when you first hear it.
Right.
And repeat it. Use it naturally in the conversation soon after.
Commit, concentrate, repeat. Got it. He also briefly touches on digital communication, email, texts.
Just a quick point. Avoid negativity in those channels. Use them for positive, helpful messages to reinforce the connection.
Okay. That brings us to lever number 3, problem solve.
And this is really the heart of the people by you idea, according to the author. It's all about helping other people get what they want, solving their problems.
He mentions a potential conflict of objectives. What's that about?
It's simple, really. People buy for their reasons, not yours. So if you just lead with your pitch, focused only on making the sale.
Your objective.
Right. It won't work if it doesn't connect directly to their objectives, their challenges. You need to focus on them first.
How do you figure out their real problems? He talks about dual process questioning.
Yeah, it's about balancing 2 things. Your strategic goals, sure, but also really engaging emotionally to understand their world. Uncover the real issues. It needs logic and empathy.
So how do you start that conversation?
He suggests starting broad. Easy questions about their company, their role, stuff they know well, feel comfortable talking about, get them rolling.
And then listen deeply.
Deeply. Not just the words. Watch their face, their body language. Listen to their tone of voice. What are the unsaid feelings?
Look for those subtle cues.
Exactly. And then ask follow-up questions. Test your hunches. Show you're digging deeper because you genuinely care about understanding.
He tells that story about Tyler and Scott, right? The bread plant.
Yeah. Scott was resistant, closed off.
Yeah.
But Tyler showed genuine interest in Scott's work, asked for a tour of the bread-making plant.
And that broke the ice.
Completely. It showed Tyler cared about Scott's world, not just about making a sale. That built the connection needed to eventually solve Scott's problem.
Okay, so what about closing? All that pressure, the techniques?
His take is actually pretty refreshing. He basically says, look, if you've done the work, you've connected, you've truly understood their problem, you've offered a good solution, you've built trust all along the way.
Then the close is just natural.
Pretty much. It shouldn't feel like this big, high-pressure moment. A simple, so when would you like to get started, often does the trick.
Interesting. Okay, that flows right into the 4th lever. Be trustworthy.
Absolutely fundamental.
Yeah.
And he's clear. Trust isn't instant. It's earned over time. consistently.
And it's crucial because customers are vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? They're relying on you.
Exactly. They're trusting you to deliver. He also touches on that basic human need for control. When trust is broken, it hurts. It makes us skeptical.
But it's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? We hate having trust broken, but we also want to trust people.
We do. Trust feels good. It makes things easier, smoother.
He shares that insight from Ed about small sales.
Yeah, that initial small purchases are often like little trust tests. Deliver on the small stuff. Keep your promises.
And that builds confidence for bigger things later.
Precisely. It builds that track record.
He uses Covey's emotional bank account idea, too.
Great metaphor. Every time you keep a commitment, deliver on a promise, you make a deposit into that trust account.
And every time you drop the ball, miss a deadline, fail to follow through.
That's a withdrawal. And he argues that today, a lot of business relationships actually start in the red. There's this baseline level of skepticism.
So building that trust foundation is even more critical from day one.
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
The bottom line for listeners, every single thing you do, every interaction, it either builds trust or chips away at it. Without it, success is basically impossible. No deals, no loyalty, damaged reputation.
And he says, sweat the small stuff. Why?
Because those seemingly minor things, being late, not returning calls, being disorganized, they add up. They erode trust bit by bit. Especially early in a relationship, even small slip-ups can be really costly.
So consistency matters, even in the little things.
Hugely. And he circles back again. Listening is a fast track to trust.
A story about Billy, the sales rep.
Yeah, winning back ex-customers just by listening, letting them vent, truly hearing their complaints without arguing or interrupting.
Yeah.
That simple act rebuild trust. Powerful stuff.
So trustworthiness requires consistent proof, self-discipline, managing your promises.
That's the essence of it, which leads to the fifth and final lever. Create positive emotional experiences.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
He says every interaction is a chance to either add value to your personal brand or take away from it. You want to get to the point where customers actually look forward to hearing from you, to seeing you.
Not dreading the call.
Definitely not. And these positive experiences, they anchor the relationship. They deepen the connection, build more trust, and trigger reciprocity.
Reciprocity, like they feel they owe you something.
In a good way. But the biggest payoff, he argues, is loyalty. Real, deep loyalty.
And what does loyalty get you?
Huge advantages. Loyal customers lock out competitors. They forgive occasional mistakes. They give you referrals. They become advocates. It's invaluable.
How do you create these positive experiences? Give me some examples.
Simple things, often. A handwritten note. Remembering a small personal detail, like their kid's name or a hobby they mentioned. Small acts of kindness or thoughtfulness.
He mentions using CRM systems for this.
Yeah, practically speaking, you can use your CRM to jot down those personal details so you don't forget. Helps you personalize interactions later.
And maybe getting help from an assistant?
Sure, if you have one, delegate some of the tasks involved in creating these positive touch points. The key principle, though, is the law of reciprocity.
Give first.
Without expecting something back immediately. Give value, show kindness, be thoughtful. The long-term reward is that loyalty.
And he really emphasizes handwritten notes.
He does. In our digital world, getting a real physical note, it stands out. It's memorable. It shows extra effort. He gives practical tips on timing, what to write, keeping it professional.
Okay, 5 levers. That naturally leads into the idea of building brand you.
Right. Your personal brand is simply how other people perceive you.
Yeah.
He uses that analogy of marketing focus groups.
Like companies test how consumers see their products. We need to think about how we're seen.
Exactly. And he shares his own story, right? Getting a perception audit.
Yeah, and being kind of shocked by the gap between how he saw himself and how others saw him.
It's a wake-up call. It really highlights that our day-to-day interactions, how we treat people, that's what shapes our brand most powerfully.
So those 5 levers we just talked about.
They're your primary branding tools. He encourages listeners to really self-reflect. How am I doing on likability, on connecting, on trust? Be honest.
I make adjustments based on that. Self-correct.
That's the idea. And look, everyone messes up sometimes. We're human.
Sure.
But offering a sincere apology when you do, and then consistently showing those positive behaviors, That's how you maintain a strong brand even after a misstep.
Okay, so that's the interpersonal side of branding, but he also talks about managing your professional image more broadly.
Yeah, beyond just how you interact one-on-one, controlling how you're viewed as a business professional overall.
He mentions appearance briefly, suggests more reading on dress and etiquette.
Right, but he really zooms in on two big opportunities that he thinks are often overlooked.
Which are?
One, becoming a recognized expert in your field. And two, building a really solid, positive online presence.
Okay, let's take expertise first. Why is becoming an expert so important for your brand?
Well, it strengthens your credibility, obviously. It leads to more opportunities to genuinely help people. It positions you more as a consultant, a trusted advisor, not just a salesperson.
And is becoming an expert achievable? Or is it only for, like, geniuses?
Totally achievable. Just takes commitment. A commitment to learning.
What kind of commitment?
He suggests simple habits. Read for 15 minutes a day. Use an e-reader, make it easy. Keep up with trade publications in your industry. Go to seminars.
Turn commute time into learning time.
Exactly. Automobile University, he calls it. Audiobooks, podcasts. There's so much available. And tons of great stuff online for free now, too.
But knowing stuff isn't enough, right? You have to show it.
Crucial point. Experts build their reputation by demonstrating their knowledge. Writing, speaking, teaching, coaching, sharing what you know.
So look for chances to teach or coach within your own company or industry groups.
Definitely. And public speaking, he really highlights that one. It's a powerful way to showcase expertise, get visibility, even generate leads.
Seems intimidating, though, public speaking.
Can be. But he suggests starting small. Speak internally first. Then look for opportunities at local chambers of commerce, trade associations, that kind of thing. Build up gradually.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the second big area for professional image, managing your online presence.
Oh, yeah. In this age of transparency, as he calls it, people can find out almost anything about you online, instantly.
He tells that scary story about Colin's son.
Yeah, losing a job offer because of some compromising photos found online. A real cautionary tale.
So your online footprint is a huge part of brand you now. You can't ignore it.
Ignoring it is perilous, he says. You really want to control or at least strongly influence what people find on the first couple of pages when they Google your name.
What about just not having an online presence? Is that safer?
He argues no. That's just a missed opportunity. You're missing the chance to proactively build your professional brand online.
So what should people do? What are the action steps?
He gives several. Get a personal website, or, even better, a blog. Blogs are more flexible for sharing content.
Okay.
Create a killer LinkedIn profile. Complete, professional, keyword-rich so it shows up in searches. Think of LinkedIn as a professional search engine.
Makes sense.
Use other social media sites wisely, Facebook, etc. Keep profiles professional or lock down privacy settings tightly.
What else?
Article marketing. Write articles related to your expertise and publish them online industry blogs, trade sites, places like salesgravy.com, or e-zine articles he mentions. Get your knowledge out there.
And monitor what's being said.
Yes. Set up Google alerts for your name so you know when you're mentioned online. You need to keep track of your online reputation.
This all sounds like a lot of work.
It is. He acknowledges that building a strong online presence takes time and consistent effort. Doesn't happen overnight. But it's essential today for managing your professional image effectively.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. We've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have. And really, the core message from Blount's book comes back to those fundamentals, doesn't it?
Yeah. Building successful relationships, a strong personal brand. It all hinges on those basic human interactions.
Being likable, genuinely connecting, focusing on solving their problems, being trustworthy consistently, and creating those positive emotional experiences.
And the key takeaway, I think, is that these aren't mysterious talents. They're skills.
Actionable skills. Things that you, our listener, can actively work on, develop, implement, starting today, in your job, and frankly, in your personal life, too.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for people to chew on.
Yeah, let's leave them with something. Thinking about those 5 levers we discussed. Likability, connecting, problem-solving, trustworthiness, creating positive emotional experiences.
Which one resonates most with you right now? Where you are in your career, your life?
And maybe ask yourself, what's one small, specific, but consistent action you could take starting today to strengthen that particular part of your brand you?
Just one small thing, but think about the ripple effect. The long-term impact if you really focused on mastering these fundamentals in all your interactions. Something to ponder.